What's up guys, it's Tajae here back with another Last of Us Part 2 Countdown Series video, and today we are officially 21 days away from the release of The Last of Us Part 2. Now that actually puts us right at exactly 3 weeks before the release of this game, and of course I'm ever so excited because again, when we got the release date, we're inside the 50s. But today what I actually want to cover is yesterday's State of Play breakdown, where we got the brand new gameplay look that was 8 minutes long, as well as Neil Druckmann's very insightful commentary that gave us a lot of brand new facts in regards to the game that we did not know before. So to actually start things off, we got to see Ellie's traversal in The Last of Us Part 2. Now we did know there's a dedicated jump button inside this game and that Ellie would be able to climb different objects within the world, but we never had this actually showcased inside gameplay of how like environmental puzzles will work, and they actually premiered something that we didn't see at all before, and that was a rope mechanic. Now of course the rope mechanic will allow us to scale vertical terrain as well as swing over to different obstacles or whatnot. That's pretty much what a rope does. But Neil Druckmann actually confirmed that this will be used for like environmental puzzles, so it will allow you to discover new areas, get resources, as well as, you know, discover side narratives. Now I personally think that this rope mechanic is something great that they could have added, because it adds like a whole nother dimension to The Last of Us Part 2's gameplay, which is actually really good to know, because if we were to be honest with ourselves, Part 1's gameplay is pretty two-dimensional. There's not like a lot of depth to it. It's pretty basic, so it's nice to know that they're adding more to make the experience more enjoyable. And of course what complements a rope mechanic and these environmental puzzles will be bigger landscapes and level design. Neil Druckmann actually elaborated on what Anthony said in our Inside the Gameplay video, that, you know, the world is very big and it's the biggest level design that they've really ever had in a Naughty Dog game. Since the world is actually so big in scope, it would only make sense to give us more dimensions of traversal in this game, which they did. They let us actually ride horseback now, as well as drive boats, and they revealed that Ellie could swim in The Last of Us Part 2 yesterday, which was the very first thing we saw inside the gameplay, and I was actually really excited for that. Plus I kind of felt like this would be a no-brainer, only because I feel like you'd be limiting some of the things you could do gameplay wise if Ellie can't swim. So honestly, like from a game design standpoint, it really only made sense, but it was still cool to have that like there it is moment inside the gameplay. It was really dope. We also got some more information in regards to the factions inside The Last of Us Part 2. So we did know that the WLF was a faction, but we actually got more insight behind how they came up and about in this world. So pretty much it's just a group of people that became a militia group inside Seattle, and their main objective was to overthrow the army that was occupying the space. Now of course they were very successful with this, because now they do actually run the Seattle space, as well as they also got armed to the teeth while doing so, because they did steal the army's weapons, which is crazy. I just want to say the WLF's origin story very much so reminds me of the Fireflies. The only difference is that the WLF don't want to find a better tomorrow. The Fireflies are trying to achieve a better tomorrow within finding a cure, and while the WLF, they're just trying to survive. But the Fireflies origin story is pretty much the exact same. It was just a group that tried to fight back against the government's oppression. Now we actually got some more insight on the other faction, which is the Seraphites, and that's that they're also known as Scars by the WLF, such as how the Seraphites call the WLF wolves. I'm sure the Seraphites also fight much more stealth, so they use much quieter weapons such as the bow and arrow, and they also hide in like foliage and overgrown within this world. Now what I was actually very excited to hear about was the infected within this game, because I feel like the first game just doesn't have enough infected encounters, and I feel like it's not as like much of a threat as I feel like the enemies were, such as the human enemies. And I feel like Part 2 is really going to ramp up, you know, the dangerous and the stakes behind the infected, and during that state of play we actually got some reassurance. So now we do know that runners are much more numerous and aggressive. Clickers are still clickers. Stalkers, I feel like we're gonna have much more stalker encounters in this game, just by the way that they've like evolved how they fight. Plus they've been giving stalkers much more light in this game, because really in the first game they never really tell you about the stalkers unless you read collectibles within the world. The stalkers didn't really get a true introduction inside Part 1, and obviously we all know that there's the bloater, which looks much more scary in Part 2 than it did in Part 1. The bloater looks ferocious, and then we of course we know the brand new shambler, which is inside the game. Now there's also going to be multiple new infecteds within The Last of Us Part 2. Neil Druckmann said that there's much more terrifying lethal forms of infected past the shambler stage, and they actually gave us a little sneak peek that leaves our minds up into interpretation, because they just gave us audio with a black screen of just screams, squeals, and screeches, which all sounded ferocious. We also got more insight on how allies will help us within the world of The Last of Us. And Neil Druckmann said that they'll help us navigate the environment, spot enemies, and of course help us in enemy encounters. And I gotta say, the buddy AI system in this game is amazing. Like, it looks very smart. It seems that the buddies actually put in work. We did see like Jesse headshot an enemy that was fighting Ellie in hand-to-hand combat, and even Jesse pulled like an infected off of her and just completely maul it down with the machete. Like, it was pretty awesome to see. And I have to say that the animations in this game are also very damn believable. Like, it looks amazing. But those are actually the last details that we have, like gameplay wise. Now we actually have just like 2 new things that we could patch into our story theories, and that's the fact that we actually know who Chelsea Tavares' character is now. We had discovered her character model before inside our trailer breakdown, but we actually know her character's name, and Ellie actually said her name is Nora. So we know exactly who her character is. She plays the character Nora, and her and Ellie have came across each other sometime in the past from where we actually got to see her inside this gameplay. Now, I also want to make a theory about who Isaac is. So inside the gameplay they got yesterday, they kept referencing to a character named Isaac, and they spoke of him as if he was a leader. I think Isaac is actually the black man who's balding that was torturing the guy inside our release date reveal trailer, as well as the same guy inside the story trailer who was like telling his men to stand down. Also, there's one more character that was referenced by the name of Abby, and whenever we actually heard that name is whenever Ellie was actually climbing through the air duct, and as she's looking down at Nora, they said something in reference to like a girl named Abby or something like that. So we could assume that Isaac, Nora, and Abby are 3 main like antagonists that are within the WLF. And that's pretty much all the different details that I could practically think of from the game as of now. And before we go, I just want to say thank you guys for the great immense support on the live stream yesterday whenever we got to watch the State of Play together. The viewing party was amazing. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people rocked out, and it was just a whole shit ton of support. And even Naughty Dog devs came, such as Anthony Newman, which is the code game director over there, as well as Andrew Frost, and a lot of others who watched from the sidelines that told me that they were watching over on Twitter. I really appreciate the support. It's always a blast, and I'm glad that we could all come together as a community and stay positive, and you know, not have to worry about, you know, the trashy things that are going on the internet right now. So thank you guys again for all the support. We're officially 21 days away from the release of The Last of Us Part 2. If you guys enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like, as well as subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with the Last of Us Part 2 countdown series, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with another banger.